Welcome back. It's time for headlines here on Newday. We'll start off with Daily Statesman and it says, put locally manufactured products on world market. Also, Ghana-Benin must build strategic bond. That's coming from President Akufo-Addo. There's an insert of the president and the president of Benin as well. Then they say they want to defame our king. That's Kumasi reacting to alleged Otum for £350,000 UK deposits. That's a story on page 2 of the Daily Statesman. Interesting there.
Right. So
well,
the Asantini story is stale, and residents of Kumasi is suggesting that it's an attempt to defame the king, of course. But I think that it will also serve a lot of good if there's a formal reaction to it.
Right.
It came out as a surprise to many, but for me, to put the matter to rest, there should be a reaction. If it is indeed the case, certainly it will be investigated in London.
Which they have?
Which, well, so I am suggesting that if the king's men will come out, and then we can have a finality to it. Other than that, it will keep spreading.
I thought that, well, Malaysia at this point would have issued a statement, as they have done in times past, to other critical issues, to dispel, you know, the thoughts that people have about it. Because these are, you know, investigations that are ongoing, and repeatedly the king has been mentioned over and over again. Surprisingly, we're told that in the Ashanti region, the radio stations are very reluctant to discuss this. I don't know why, but, well, I mean,
but Johnny, for a case that's under investigation, and you don't have that's what I was going to say. You don't have all the information, as it were. You would want to wait because this is
I mean,
a person in high esteem.
Is it a lack of information or a seeming obsequity for the throne, or because you see, I'm saying this because most of the stations in the Ashanti region have affiliates in Accra. And the stations in Accra are already broadcasting them with the same bit of information that we have. So if you have an affiliate and you don't have information, what's the thing? You refer to them, you get information, and then you can look at it. It's not to suggest that, well, perhaps they are scared or afraid to report. It could also be a factor that they don't have the necessary information. But I would have wished that Malaysia at this point would have put up a statement to say that, well, this is the actual situation, that perhaps it didn't happen, or it did, but this is the real situation. I
wait and see what will happen. But I am sure the media houses in Kumasi are not too keen about it because they lack some information. All they know is the story being told by the Daily Telegraph, but as to the authenticity of the story is what they cannot vouch for. So maybe we'll wait and see if Malaysia will come out.
Anyway.
Ghana-Benin, the president was here. Well,
is he still here?
I am not too sure. I guess he's left. But these kinds of meetings, I don't know whether they're really meetings that bring anything concrete, or they're just normal visitations. Let me visit a colleague president or stuff like that. Ghana-Benin, even on the West African scene, when we talk about local trade, between among ourselves, which has been difficult to do. ECOWAS has been asked to improve and enhance trade among ourselves. We've tried hard to get it done. It's not working. Even when you're traveling between Ghana, Benin, Togo, and the other countries in the sub-region, there's a difficulty, and that difficulty impedes the smooth flow of persons and goods. That's one key thing that ECOWAS has been struggling to deal with. You should be able to go to any of these countries without a passport, but as to whether you can do that safely and smoothly without any impediment in your way. So if the two have met, and perhaps some of these discussions might have been taken up, and we hope to see dividends from the meet that was held in Accra.
Definitely.
But what happened to the ECO, one currency that we spoke about that ECOWAS was supposed to have? What happened to it?
they're still in talks. I think it hasn't really been put away, because I remember it was reignited even when President Akufo-Addo came on the scene and went to ECOWAS to talk about this. I know there's been a mention of it, but I guess there are other things they're looking at, because ultimately you have to put certain things in check before
certain things like what? Look, if you're traveling,
I mean,
we're told
so
that we're supposed to have a thorough fare,
right.
but go through Togo, go through some border, try and get into Nigeria, and see how many gendarmes you meet and what they would demand from you. And that's just in Togo.
Yeah. Before
you get into Nigeria, it's a whole different ball game altogether. So the lip service that we pay to African unity and ECOWAS and blah, 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 and the green passport, I thought that was why we changed our passport's color from blue to green.
Right.
So to work at it. But beyond that, what has happened? Okay. Beyond that, what exactly? So we may have the visits, and President Akufo-Addo is not the first president to be visiting these countries. I remember that when he came on first, he visited most of these countries. Okay, so we're repeating some of the visits. President Mahama has visited some of those countries. President Kufuor, President Mills, bless his soul. But what do we get from these visits, like Senior Bright is asking? So I don't get it.
Anyway, the trade minister
and you see, the funny thing is that we are quick as Africans to allow the foreigners to get in, and we give them all the privileges. And yet, for our own people, we don't want to give ourselves. So I don't know, but sometimes maybe it puts me off.
Maybe the same statesman carries a story of Benin making some donation to the gas explosion victims. Maybe he was here to commiserate with the president. I mean, these are some of the things that you do when your brother is in trouble, just to give that helping hand. So, and they use the opportunity to discuss a few things about cooperation and all that. So, good stuff. Let's see what exactly the dividend will be.
Definitely, as we look at it, I mean, I'm happy when I see them having these interactions, because I'm sure there are things that have been repeated, and when you talk amongst yourselves, something may be reignited in you, some passion, some desire to forge some, close unity or some, whatever it is. I'm happy when I see them, but above all, when they talk, it should translate into fiscal gains. It should translate into development, integration. Whatever they talk about should be realized.
We should
not
feel
only
it.
talk.
We should feel it.
So definitely we appreciate these visits, but it should translate into tangible things for the nation.
It's just like, I mean, growing up as kids, you have your father's friends visit. They'll sit in the parlor, drink beer or whiskey or whichever it is. And you know that your father's friends have come, but
after
it
that,
doesn't.
what?
After that, what? If they don't pass you some 5 CDs or 2 CDs, really,
you don't appreciate their visit.
The visit was worthless. I mean,
that's
they'll be laughing out loud, but you don't care. They'll pass you something, then you know, Uncle Bright has come.
Anyway, so moving on to Ghanaian Times also has the story, Ghana-Benin vow to deepen ties. And then 5 agri-colleges picket over restoration of allowances. Then police bust car snatching syndicate on page 3. Also 4,500 cartons of unwholesome canned fish destroyed. Then the big story there is war against landguards. Government to fight them as galamseyers. That's coming from the Minister of Lands and Natural Resources, Mr. John Peter Amewu.
That story there is quite interesting, particularly at this time. I'm talking about the canned fish. You see, when we're getting to Christmas, you find some of these things sneak onto our market and people rush for them. It's Christmas. Look, the guys in my village will quickly come to Accra. When they see them on the ground being displayed for 50 pesos and 1 cedi, they will spend all their money to buy them, take them back there and go and eat them without even checking the expiry date. So it is good that 4,500 cartons have been destroyed. I remember the FDA says that there were 6 containers of that. One particular brand, I think the Asahi brand, all 3 containers were declared unwholesome. 3 others of the, I think Nice One or something, I've forgotten the exact brand, were said not to be, they haven't been able to trace all, but they know where they are. So I'm hoping that the FDA will be on top of this until all the 6 containers, if the other 3 are found to have been also affected by perhaps some, the storage and so had gone bad, then they deal with it. Else, before next month, when the buying starts in November, you find people going to get them. So kudos to FDA for protecting the public, but there is more work to be done on this one.
I agree.
Yeah.
The FDA would always tell you that it's a joint effort between us and them. I mean, but they have the expertise. I don't have the expertise as to, I mean, what looks like an expired product or not. At best, I will pick the can and say, okay, the expiry date says so, and which is what it is. But even then, you'll found some practitioners within their fold tell you that, oh, sometimes when the expiry date is there, it means that 3 months or so. So there's that bit of confusion. Then we're now told of how the canisters, the expiry date on the canisters can be rubbed and then reproduced. We don't have the expertise to be able to say to see that. So we count on the FDA, we count on the Ghana Standards Authority, we count on the Customs Division of the Ghana Revenue Authority to be able to identify some of these things, block them before it gets to us. I think that our borders are far too porous, and even our ports as well sometimes. So my question is, if this Asahi product was meant for Togo, as we are being told, why did they find its way in? I thought Togo was the other way, towards Aplao. So why was it getting up there? Or was it going through Burkina Faso to come back through Mali and then come to Togo? What was the plan? Okay, so the excuses don't wash, but we are happy that at least it's been you know, it's been destroyed. And it's not just, this is just one of the things that TV3 perhaps broke. We had a scoop, we broke the story, and so we got it. How about the others that we don't know? The others that perhaps will be on the market or people are consuming. And you know, children are fascinated by some of these things. They have, you know, back in the day, we used to go and buy condensed milk. We're so happy about it. We're just happy sucking on condensed milk. So the children have a new brand of condensed milk. They want to be early adopters. They go and get it. They take it. And before you know, it's become a problem for them. And as Senior Bright has said, people come from the villages. They come to Accra. They want to take something home so that people know that they have also come to the big cities. They go and get it. So the problem keeps multiplying. We've had a whole set of problems with plastic rice, with Sudan dye, with fake wele, and plenty issues. And all of that goes to the doorstep of the FDA. So when the FDA tells us that we have a joint responsibility, I think that the bigger chunk of the work stays at their doorstep. And the swiftness with which they respond to the issues matter. Because if I go and buy palm oil, which has been adulterated, and I go and eat it, and then after I feel some funny taste in my mouth or something in my tummy, I go to the hospital, and then I'll come to you. Can you imagine how many people would have bought that palm oil, and how many people who may not have a strong immune system may have died from it, or may have had complications before the FDA moves into act? What happened to intelligence gathering? What happened to it?
Anyway, on a lighter note, I mean, it may have, maybe because I'm a scientist or whatever, but I'm fascinated by methods and the way we do things in Ghana. Watching the video on how they were destroying the cans, I wasn't too amused because I don't know how FDA goes about its activities, but this was something that was out there for all of us to see. So I thought they'll take advantage of that opportunity to do the right thing. I see a few young men being tasked to destroy the cans or bring them down into the other vehicle that will eventually transport them. These men are not wearing shoes, and yet they're stepping on these cans. They're rotten. You don't know what could have happened there. We know, I mean, as a scientist, you would know the health implications. So if FDA is doing something as massive as this, that is being shown on screen, and they don't have those security, you know, safety equipment or apparatus, then what do you do behind closed doors? That for me is worrying. They should check it, because this won't be the first time. I mean, there are other institutions that do similar things. We saw when the Boss Fuel issue broke out, we saw an official smelling or sniffing, and we said that wasn't the way to go. So definitely, if it's a habit, these are your things. Obviously, that's what you showed us. So this is the best I can think you do behind closed doors. But I mean, we can do better than that.
You know, if your car breaks down, you happen to be around one of these wayside mechanics, and if it has to do with, I don't know, there's something they call the carburetor or something. I don't know if that's the real name, but
yes, the carburetor.
They can actually remove one end of it, suck the fuel, and put it in another. And be able to start the car. Sometimes I watch them.
You can't think far.
It's not healthy.
I don't know, but I think that we throw a lot of things to the dog. I've always advocated, I've always said that, look, there are a lot of unemployed graduates in this country. if you have a first degree, or if you have an HND, or if you have a diploma, you could be trained by the FDA to be able to do market surveillance for them, to go into the markets and be a mystery shopper and be inquisitive, ask questions. Because you have a training, you will know which products have the tendency to be fake, or and the FDA can hire people like that and pay them money. I mean, if you need financial clearance from Ministry of Finance, say it and let's put it out there. But to always come back to say that it's a shared responsibility, and then when we push further, we are told that, oh, we do not have the numbers to be able to deal with it. I don't buy it. I mean, if somebody has what does it take to identify a fake product? If you train the person, 3 months intensive training, I mean, we should be able to do it.
Anyway, guys.
We should be able to do it. So I don't get it. And yet there are people who are sitting at home. Even people who have done biochemistry.
Courses,
people who have done biochemistry at home. People who have done pure chemistry, they're at home. People who have done plenty science-related courses, plenty of them are at home. So what is the point? What is the point? And we say that there's no job. There are jobs, but we have refused to employ the people. That is the problem.
Anyway.
Right.
But land guards, your favorite.
Yes.
The minister says there's going to be a war, and it's going to be like that against Galamsey.
How ruthless is the war going to be? Are we going to see another ultimatum issued, and then when it dies, we issue another ultimatum, and then we issue another ultimatum, and then we send Operation Vanguard, and then now we don't know what is happening with the fight against Galamsey?
This is the conclusion I've come to. Where there's a political will, like there is in the case of the Galamseyers, where the minister is so adamant to do, there's opposition because the people he's fighting are within, they're themselves.
Right.
It's the politicians. So with this land guards issue, we've said that the chiefs, the politicians who have the power to clamp them down. But you start talking about it on the airs, on the airwaves, you're making so much noise. But when you get on the ground, the people you're supposed to clamp down are your friends. I mean, it's like you have to favor them.
Exactly.
So then at the end of it, where did we go or did we come?
I always want to go back to rural areas and see how they do their things, and then bring it to urban centers and see how our inactions sometimes cause some of these things.
Right.
I haven't seen any land guard problem in any rural community. I haven't.
Okay.
And I can tell you I have traveled Ghana enough that I've been to the local levels, the district levels, not the urban district, but the rural district. And I didn't notice anything like land guards there. Anybody can prove me wrong.
I agree with you.
But come to the center, okay, the urban center. This is where you find the land guard. So then the issue is that land becomes a debate here. But we know the people who own the lands. In my village, you dare not go there and want to do anything on the land without letting the chief know.
Right.
Now, every land in Accra, Kumasi, Takoradi, where these land guards are operating, belong to family owners.
Right.
The chiefs. I don't think this should be a war. That's why it's not a war. This is the time to, because we have a land secretariat, to get to know all the owners of the land. Look, the land guards are working on behalf of the owners of the land.
Yeah. Is that simple?
It's not a war.
Is that simple?
I don't know if what he means by war is going to talk to them, but I think that there's no war in this.
Right.
Let us get the owners of the land to say that don't get these land guards onto the lands, else we will deal with you.
Right. Fair point. But there's also a growing phenomenon of where the landowners themselves are unable to decide who is the heir to the throne. So at one particular point, we may have 2 or 3 of us as chiefs.
Right.
And so who do you speak to say keep the land guards of the land?
Yeah.
Who do you speak to?
Johnny.
Who do you go to?
Johnny, we are told, for instance, in the gas state, the whole gas state, we're told, belongs to 4 families. Is that
right?
Yeah.
And so if we see any land guard activity anywhere, we'll go for them.
But right, you see, while it belongs to while the heirs to the throne will be 4, there are 7 quarters of Accra. So there's Lante Jawe, there's Bese, there's Asre, and all of those. Good. So that you can't say, for example, that because Amugewe, Piam, or which one of them will become what do you call it? The heirs to the throne. Then each land you see, for example, at La, then you run to them. They don't cross to that country.
Johnny, but you see, no, don't stretch this. Look, we know, for instance, that the people of La, they own the lands around East Legon.
Right.
They own the lands around, I hear from the Sprinters Road.
Yes.
We know that's what we're told.
Yes.
So if there is a land guard phenomenon or problem around East Legon, we'll go and get the La Chief.
But right,
he's the person responsible.
To the extent that somebody may have bought, say, 2, 3, 4, 5 acres, and it decides that I need the service of the land guard to protect my land. It goes beyond the chief.
That is where it is against the law to have land guards. So he or she cannot demand the services of land guards. In fact, land guard thing is illegal.
It is.
It is not right. So you see, the land guards are active because the chiefs are involved in double selling the land. When they double sell the land, then they go and tell them, hey, go and guard that land. Make sure this man has it. So if we pick those who own the land, this problem won't get to the point where, I don't know whether the use of the word war, it means war. I don't we need soldiers to go and deal with this issue. We know the owners of the land. Well, let's deal with them. We can stop these land guards.
See, right.
They don't go there. They don't go there.
For me, there are chiefs who are powerless, who are just figureheads and white elephants and ceremonial heads. There are so many of them now. Plenty chiefs who are powerless, who even cough and nobody turns their head. There are plenty of them.
But Johnny, like Bright is saying, if we still get them, then he also will call whoever is subject to him to come and release. That trend will eventually stop.
I'm telling you that there are chiefs. I'm telling you that there are chiefs who are powerless.
We don't
care. As in what? So they sell the lands and then they are powerless?
There are chiefs who do not even know. You see, the problem is more complicated than perhaps we see it all. If, for example, you go to the Ashanti region and Otumfor, there's a piece of land, you cannot sell a piece of land until you have seen Otumfor. That's because the style of leadership in the Ashanti kingdom is hierarchical. All the chiefs answer to Otumfor. In the situation of the Ghana state, the leadership is not hierarchical. It is autonomous. So the Gamanche cannot go to Nitete Pobichuru, Lamanche, to go and tell him that he should do this, he should do that. He can't do that. He can't go to chief. He can't go to chief professor.
Who owns the land?
No, but he can't
who's
go
the owner of the land?
The chief alone cannot lay claim to the land.
Yes, but when we get him, the rest will be solved. Anyway, guys, I guess you get the truth.
So are you saying that when we get, for example, the Lamanche or the Osumanche, those who are taking digging fee,
they'll all come and answer. It will be an investigation. You call all of them.
Because they are career landlords, so people
we
who
don't
have made themselves
we'll clamp down your career.
Disappointed soldiers and police people who
will clamp it down.
If your land has ever been taken from you before, you will see how
anyway,
it goes.
guys, there's more.
I think that somebody should take the minister's land.
Johnny will be
somebody should take the minister's land, like some land guard should take his land.
Then
you will see the severity and then he will go.
I'm sure maybe they are. Anyway, guys, we have more of this after the break. Stay here with us on Newday.
Daily Guide starts today and says Cabinet meets over gas explosion. You remember the President promising a quick meeting to fix the problem. Today is the day. We'll take a look at that story. Daily Graphic says workers choke Metroma's wage bill, but company suspends plans to lay off 1,200 of them, and Ghana Benin to deepen bonds of friendship. The Times says war against land guards, government to fight them as Galam says. 5 agric colleges picket over restoration of allowances, and 4,500 cartons of unwholesome canned fish destroyed. Yoko reopens Slimense's NHIA docket. That's a story on the front page of the Newday. And Otumfor's chiefs duck for cover, can't defend 350,000 money laundering case in UK. The Statesman says Ghana Benin must build strategic bond, President Akufo-Addo. And that Otumfuo story is also captured here on the Daily Statesman. My guest this morning, the Member of Parliament for the Asiedu-Dartey constituency, a member of the NPP, Nana Dr. Ayew Afriyie, is with me. Good morning.
Good morning.
Hope you're doing great.
I am.
You've been missing.
Grace. Yes, you know, recess and then you go do something else.
All right.
Thank you.
We have found you back.
Thank you.
We're grateful for your return.
Sure.
And then the Communications Director of the Convention People's Party, Isifu Kadir Abdul Rauf, is also here. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning,
I
brother.
hope you're doing great.
Yeah, I'm doing very
And
well.
how's the CPP doing?
Yeah, we are doing very great.
Getting ready for 2020, I
Sure,
guess.
sure.
Okay,
sure.
we're grateful for your time. Let's start this morning with the Daily Guide. Page 2 says that Cabinet meets over gas explosion. Cabinet is expected to meet today to deliberate on the deadly gas explosion at Atomic Junction in Accra last Saturday that has triggered spontaneous debate regarding how petroleum products are being handled in the country. 7 people, including a cameraman working with Netu TV, who was stationed at the presidency, Mohammed Yakubu, were killed. 132 others sustained various degrees of burns and were rushed to various hospitals. Now, sources say the NPP government is said to be considering far-reaching safety measures as lasting solution to the spate of gas explosions and fire outbreaks, and the crunch meeting is expected to set the tone. If you remember, the paper says after the president visited the explosion scene and hospitals where the victims were receiving treatment, President Addo promised to act swiftly with the right policies to forestall fuel and gas explosion in the country. The time for talking is over, and that the time for action is now, President Akufo-Addo said after the visit. Today is the day Cabinet will meet, and according to him, I believe out of that meeting, the country will know what our program is, the comprehensive program we intend to have to bring such incidents to a stop, he said. He appealed to industry players to recognize that we all have to make adjustments to be able to guarantee the safety and security of our people. Nana, let me begin with you. The meeting is expected today. We're just trying to look into the minds or think deep into the minds of members of cabinet and the presidency. How should they deal with this issue?
Okay. Very good morning to listeners, and especially my constituents of Asiedu-Dartey constituency. Very good morning. Yes, basically, thoughts and prayers still with the family involved in this explosion. And we are very grateful also for the response by the private sector after the Vice President visited the scene and called for support. We've had some pharmaceutical companies responding as such, and this is a good spirited effort, and I'm awed by that determination. I think that it should be copied same, and we should live for each other. The president is worried about the situation. He believes that this has been more of a canker-over period, taking the past 10 years. There was one in Asokwa in 2007 under the previous MPP regime, and this has run through the past years with all this problem in Michelle Camp, La, Takoradi, all over. And even I hear yesterday or two, again in Mankasim.
Yeah.
It's so worrying. And the point is that why must it be so? I mean, there are other countries practicing these systems. Why is it that probably we don't hear of these explosions? The point is that why is it Ghana, you know? And obviously, a policy that must come from, to me, from cabinet, must be able to, first of all, cure this longitudinal observation of events. It must cure it. It must cure it once and for all. We must be, as a country, to support a decision. In one breath, we want a good decision, a good direction. In the other breath, you go having people begging for clemency, mercy, change of rules. The rules must respect the individual and not for the people. This is the kind of difficult situation we find ourselves as in a country. We believe that in all circumstances, whatever decision you take, there must be a human face to it. But in the case that fatalities involving communities, businesses, innocent lives, where is the line? Where is the line? And so we should be able as a country to take a decision, because it might be me tomorrow just passing by. It must be you tomorrow just passing by. It might be anybody. So for me, in as much as cabinet is going to meet, I believe that, first of all, it's going to think about the citizens first. The location of these gas stations. You have UPSA students upset because it's close to them. What are the regulations? Who is flouting the regulations? Who is above the law? The state agencies, are they acting, or they look at faces? They have monitoring teams. Do they go and do the job? I've heard about a lot of things that happens when they go, they find they have a field day and go. So me, for instance, it's so difficult for me to call for the heads of the various state agents, the appointees, because barely about 3 months or 5 months they've all been in office. But they have inherited a certain system with some laxity. And therefore, it is more to do with the public servants. And then, though you as an appointee, you should be responsible for the decision. But the conflict here is where you have just come in and it's so early for me to lump the sides. So there must be reforms, policy implementation, and the state agencies themselves. They must know that the laws and regulations are made to be enforced for the people and on behalf of the people, and not for any businessman, not any politician, not any big man. Big man where? You understand? Sometimes too much good faithism, where you are supposed to let the thing work, you look at individuals. You understand? And also town and country planning. You will see gas stations who make argument that I was there decades before the towns or the private, the communities grew closer to me. So who gave those permits? The assemblies are there, the town and country planning areas are there. Who gave those permits for them to get closer? Now, where are we going to relocate them? Are we going to close all of them down now for them to reapply new EPA regulations, which they did on the 3rd of June during the disaster at Gore? They modified their regulations. You hear today that in that regulation, they stated categorically that schools, hospitals, and churches are those that you don't get closer to, and LPGs should be in like commercial areas. And you hear a news yesterday or 2 days ago that reported on one of the sister stations that EPA is saying that there was no regulation for residential properties. What are you talking about? Where do we cite all these things? And they all serving the communities located within the communities. So therefore, the regulation is talking about church, talking about hospital, talking about, why are they talking about the hospital? Why are they talking about the church? It is a church belonging to who and for who. And so you don't mind the community who get into the church. And these are some of the things that it doesn't make sense to me. And I can't take the state agencies away from this. However, I can't blame the immediate appointees as the CEOs who have just come in. So the reforms must cure and give confidence to the public. Must give you the security by the location of a gas station, because it serves you. You buy it, and you would want it to be at a convenient place. That it will not have to let you go to probably you to have to
travel
all the
before
way to
getting
Tema
it.
before. I mean, does it make sense in a very global village, in the united economy, a growing economy? You don't do that. But then make services closer to me by giving me my guarantee, giving me my security.
All right.
That's the issue at stake. So I anticipate some radical solutions, but it should protect the citizens. It should purge the state agencies itself. It should let us know the safety procedures. You should educate the community. My brother, you cite a gas station by me, and community, we don't have an association to meet. When you are obtaining permit, it is expected that you have involved the community. Is that the case?
I'm grateful. Nana, Rauf, so if this is the issue, the state institutions are involved, the committees are involved, I foresee a Herculean task for cabinet today in trying to fix this problem. Is that what you see too?
Well, first of all, let me also say a very good morning to the cherished viewers. and also to add my, voice of condolences to the bereaved family over this particular, disaster. But you see, here I feel that the people of Ghana have actually been let down again by our, lawmakers and stuff. Because if Parliament is now going to meet, Cabinet is now going to meet over this particular issue, the question then arises: over the years, what has been happening to, fixing this matter once and for all? Because, Bride, you would bear with me that in the last 3 years, we have had no less than 8 of such disasters in the country. And then, oftentimes, when such disasters occur, lives usually are lost. So the question is, do we really place premium, do we really place value on the lives of Ghanaians? The answer would be decidedly no, because if we do, by now, this shouldn't be a matter that we'll be talking about. So I believe that lackadaisical attitude towards, work, that lackadaisical attitude, I don't care syndrome, is something that has permeated virtually every part of our society, and it's affecting us, and we are paying for it through our nose on a daily basis. And these are examples of such, issues. But you see, I want to make the argument that I do not think that the location is very much the problem. Because when you look at filling stations and then gas, stations, by their very nature, they are supposed to be situated where human beings are, so that people can access them. The debate should actually be concentrated very much on the safety measures. Well, for example, if you travel to other countries, gas filling stations are situated at places very closer to people's offices. And for example, China, I know very well that even, the van moves around and come and fill it into people's houses, and hardly do you see any such occurrences. My difficulty, or one thing that I find very difficult to understand over the period, is that any time such disaster occurs, no single individual will be held blamable for what has happened, or will be punished, so that the whole public will know that Mr. A was punished as a result of this thing. When it happens, Ghanaians, we are now becoming talkatives. Virtually everything that happens, we'll sit in the media, we'll go places and be talking about it. And after a week or two, after the initial media glare, the matter dies down. And then people go back to their own practices. So the challenge that I want to put to Cabinet as they meet this morning is that they have to make sure that we get people punished for this kind of, issues or problems anytime they happen. Because I cannot imagine how a civilized society will allow such a thing to go unpunished. Definitely one person will be held responsible. And I agree with Honorable here that, the institutions, we can't pretend that, everything is okay. Because it is somebody's duty to ensure that safety measures are being adhered to strictly.
They were called they were called to sanction the head of the NPA.
Yeah, well, I think that when you look at, for example, we have said that in the last 8 years, these things have been happening. So, for example, if you say that the boss of MPA should be sanctioned, sometimes I do not think that it addresses the core of the problem. It rather looks at the symptoms, because this is something that has been occurring and recurring in the last 8 years in the country, or even more. What we are saying is that, yes, the boss of the MPA has a duty, but I do not think that he can be held at this moment directly responsible for what has happened. He has just resumed, he has just come into office. What I am saying is that we have to have a comprehensive, strategy in dealing with this thing. Because, for example, when you look at the EPA, when you look at virtually all the parastatal or statal organizations that are connected in this industry, you find that some persons must definitely be held responsible for what has happened. And sometimes even the pump attendants, those who are always at the filling station, because they have little or no training, they are just actually asked to do this thing on their good human self. And sometimes in their bid to rendering services to the public, there are fallouts, and the fallouts sometimes are very penetrative. They are very dear. So what do? My position and the position of my party is that these deaths are absolutely needless. These are deaths that, with a little application of care, if we are to be very mindful of the duty of care that we owe to ourselves, these things would not happen. And anytime these things happen, I think that somebody headmaster rule. Somebody must be punished so that the public, at least we'll say that in the last 10 years, Mr. A has been punished drastically for what
How many years must one hold an office to be made responsible for an action?
Well, that one, we can't necessarily put, time limit to it. It says because it depends. So somebody just comes into office, probably even the board that you are coming to work with has not been constituted. There are certain major decisions that you cannot take, and something arises like that. How do you hold that person, blameable? But, after some time, we expect that you are put in that office to make reforms or to improve upon service delivery. So if after some time we feel that you people are not speaking directly through policies to the issues that take away the life of Ghanaians on a daily basis, then we think that there is a problem. So my view is that it depends. Sometimes
punishment is key here.
Yeah, somebody
we have to look
punished.
at the number of the time the person is in office before we can take action.
No, it depends. That's why I'm saying that. So, for example, in the case of Hassan, let's say the MPA boss, I believe that even in trying to understand, the issues within the office that he has been appointed to, it takes a little time. But I'm saying is that as a people, we have to have a comprehensive measure. And that measure actually should be there, irrespective of who is in power. So, for example, today it is Hassan Tampuli. Tomorrow it is another person. And that's, policy or regulation must be implemented. It must be enforced in a manner that people will not be spared when they allow such disasters to occur. Because these are actual man-made disasters. These are disasters which are highly avoidable. But due to the lackadaisical and lukewarm attitude of, duty bearers, we allow these things to happen, and then it usually causes the country. And after that, you see that we will come. For example, when the second one occurred, you could see from the face of the president, John Mahama, his heart was broken. And the heart of virtually every Ghanaian was broken. And any other person anywhere that saw the footages of what happened was broken. So I would have thought that that was an opportunity for us to have even taken the necessary, legislations and policies to make sure that we resolve this issue once and for all. But
we're back to square one. Quickly.
For me, where you have been authority, you've been appointed less than 6 months. Obviously, before you get to a system, it must be, it's not rated, but there must be some 6-7 months that makes you be able to
act,
to change, to redirect, present your policy for a direction, a new direction, to understand the system itself, to find the problems and to diagnose them, to treat them. You might probably need about some 3 to 6 months, and then you charter a certain direction that you are moving on. So it is subjective. It is not something that we should really label ourselves on. Right. But how about the public servants who have been there? They've worked for 10 years, 15 years. That's my point.
And they've seen all the blast in the past.
They've seen all the blast. They're the same people who do the monitoring and who send their people there. So what is happening to them? That's my problem. The reforms, you don't always look at the appointee who has just been there. Of course, if the appointee caused a blunder, that is directly involving his decision. My brother, I'll be the first person. For me, as I stand by the president, it's about us to do the right things. I will not stand by you against the people of this country. I always stand by my people. That is first to me, and that's the belief of the president and my party. That's the truth. Yes, but I also entreat them to consider the need for a health and safety commission. My brother, in the UK, there is a health and safety commission that has the powers to close down, to prosecute, and full closures, everything. We must believe to learn from best practices. In every institution, there's supposed to be a health and safety unit. Even in TV3, there's supposed to be one. Are institutions complying to them? Who is monitoring them? Is it being left for management to be able to make decisions on that? They will always have to maximize their profits, therefore they will shortchange their staff. Somebody must be able to tell management that do that and you are not doing that. And we expect this in all the sectors. It's about time that Ghana would have to go for a health and safety commission, an independent one, with full powers to prosecute and closure. And therefore, you would have to do your thing. You can have your internal officers like there's always internal auditor. You can have your internal safety officer to implement the guidelines. But there might be an external person who says, are you doing it? If not, this is the sanctions. When we leave it for somebody to do his work, you may be surprised. We'll be in check.
I'm grateful. Let's jump to the daily, the Ghanaian Times. A quick one with this. 3 days, was it 2 days ago or 3 days ago, the president restored the allowances of nurses, hundreds nurses and midwives. Now, after that, the Times is reporting that hundreds of students from 5 agriculture colleges in the country yesterday besieged the premises of the Ministry of Food and Agriculture in Accra to demand the immediate restoration of the allowances. Chanting "No Alawa, no school, no Alawa, no school," amidst singing and dancing, the students said the picketing was necessitated by the ministry's failure to respond to petitions regarding the allowance. The allowances of trainee nurses, teachers, and agricultural students were all scrapped by the previous government, but President Nana promised to restore the allowances of teacher, trainees, and nurses, which began October this year. The president of these group of nurses said that the students have been trying to dialogue with the Minister of Agriculture since the current government promised during the election period to restore all allowances that were scrapped by the erstwhile government. He said that the ministry has kept quiet for a long time. Government has released the allowances of teacher and nurse trainees